Shali? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. People behind me, people in front of me, and I think it's a very interesting setup. I was imagining something else, but it looks like you and me and the audience, we are one part of it. And 1.5 days that we've been here have been very intensive and very enriching and very enlightening and insightful for me. And Manav, wherever you are, a big thank you for such a wonderful HICSA that you do every year, which is one of the most phenomenal conferences that this part of the geography sees every year. And my name is Bibhor Srivastava. I'm the managing director for ITP Media in India. And we straddle a spectrum of communities and publications in Hotelier India as one such brand that we do. Ladies and gentlemen, what's happening in 1.5 days has been intensive discussion, as I said, on numbers and growth and ADRs and so many other things. But I think we got a topic which is very soft and nice and very significant at the heart of it, and that is aesthetics in hospitality. And I was coining the term, I was telling Manu, why don't we look at it as profit by design? But I think that's something is the underline and the bedrock of the discussion. And before I get straight into the conversation, I think I've got to joined by an extreme, eminent panel, and I would request each of the panel to introduce themselves. We'll go with Priya. Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a pleasure the past 2 days being here, and especially at this panel with this power panel, being part of this panel. And I'm an architect and interior designer based out of Singapore. We're called 5 Scale Design, and it's amazing to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Cyril Jacob, and I run a company called Ascentis. We are project managers, mostly specializing in hospitality. Been in India for 15 years now, and very happy to be back here like every year.
Hi, I'm Vikram Choubal. I work with the Leela Hotels and Resorts and Palaces. Been in the design teams for the last 25 years. Thoroughly enjoying hospitality. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Rajat. I'm mountaineer by heart, and I've been forced as a consultant and asset owner. I run my own resort. That's what I am.
I'm John Gerondelis. I'm a principal at Smallwood. We're architects and interior designers, headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, USA, and we have an office in Singapore.
Oh. So as you people behind me, it was very difficult to turn around, but I think, we love to have a very great conversation going, so please feel it's a very informal setup. It's just that not the monologues that we want. Should you have a question, raise, just go ahead, identify yourself, and have a question. But to begin with the conversation, I think the topic is something very nice, aesthetics. And I would like to give each of our panel about a quick 30 seconds to what does aesthetic means to you. So maybe begin with John himself.
Beat you to it.
Aesthetics are rules to live by. That's especially important to me. It's how you design, how I follow design to get to beauty.
Beauty.
I think something which is soothing to your mind and soul, something which is not intimidating. That's what aesthetics means to me.
Yeah, I agree with John. Aesthetics is beauty. It's a lot of functionality as well, which is important in our business. But aesthetics can be anything. For any object. It doesn't have to be only hotels.
Well, I have to say first, as a disclaimer, as a project manager, we always try to stay away from debates about aesthetics, but since you forced me today, I really think aesthetics is, I was joking with Rajat before, is really in the eyes of the beholder. I think you want to have the same expectation of aesthetics if you're in China, in India, or in Europe. So I think as project managers, we would just see aesthetics, as what the target market, what the clientele of the hotel wants to see first and foremost.
So I feel people say, don't judge a book by its cover. But unfortunately, in the hotel industry, we do judge everything by its cover. So it's the first impression that you see is the aesthetics around. And I don't want to trivialize it as just a cover, but It's definitely an extension to a response to the socio-cultural, to the pleasing beauty, and also response to human scale.
I think that's very good opening lines from each of the panel. I think beauty is one of the underlying statements that we heard from the panel. And in order to optimize the discussion, and I thought it's prudent to me to get maximum input from the panel. So what I've done here, I've taken certain questions looking each member profile, and I begin with Priya. Priya, for the last 2 years, business have been redefined and affected the entire ecosystem. To create a trinity of success, it is important that operators, owners, and designers work together to create a successful project. How has the hospitality design market changed over the last decade, and what has influenced these changes? How, according to you, should we envisage the future of design in the hotel industry? So what we've been underlying and thinking, and while we run India's #1 magazine, Hotelier India, and we felt that in order to have a great unit, a great property, there has to be a trinity of success, which means to say that the people work very cohesively. That is the operator, the asset owner, and the designer. So Priya, you work extensively. So just can you share more insights?
Sure. So I would say definitely, yes, I do agree there's been a vast evolution over the past decade, and of course more accelerated the past 2 years in response to the pandemic. I would say I would, categorize them in overarching themes or trends in about 5. I would say the major changes and evolutions have been in sustainability, in definitely wellness and health, health and wellness, also modular and prefab construction. Definitely technology and digitization has got a huge part to play, and definitely, I would say the changes that really, the factors that contribute to this is not just one. It could be consumer behavior, it could be, the pandemic, the way we respond to, everything needs to be more probably decluttered and sanitized and clean. So I would say it's more a response to consumer behavior and the circumstances. So I would say the future of design is really to create a cohesive plan right from the planning stages in response to all these situations.
Vikram, would you labor on the point which Priya just mentioned, from a luxury brand, how easy it has been, or how difficult it is?
So luxury is something that is aspirational, right? Luxury is something that is expensive. It's not difficult. It is the passion, it is the vision of a person who wants to talk about bespoke luxury to come inside. But it's not that luxury can't be sustainable. It can't be manageable. It is possible to luxury, even under the circumstances today that, yes, the market has changed completely because of the segmentations that have changed in the market, There are various different kinds of brands, there are very different kinds of, but sorry, when I talk about Leela, it's purely luxury that we're talking about, and we don't have a second brand. So whatever we plan to do and whatever hotels that we are running at the moment are bespoke in the sense, but it's not that we are not getting into sustainability, not that we are not trying out new automation, not that we are not trying out, technology. All this is coming in, definitely. So luxury is there. Luxury is here to stay. But it's not that we're ignoring the rest of the stuff that is going on.
So how are the owners reacting? Are they towing the similar lines from the brand that you've been giving them?
So again, like I said, it depends on vision, it depends on passion, and it depends on the brand itself, that how strong the brand is. Now, we are known to be a very strong brand in terms of its luxury quotient. So everybody knows that there's a new Leela, completely new team at the moment. So it is our job to carry this legacy forward, definitely. So I don't think we are in any hurry to dilute the brand in any way, and probably we will choose and pick our owners and the demographics and the locations very thoughtfully before we enter into any market. Like I said, we have only one brand and we need to uphold that brand.
I think it's very, I mean, looking at the COVID times with 3 properties that you opened, must be a
So I think in the whole lot, we were the only person
3 big
who got
luxury hotels.
3 luxury properties, and each one of them is big boxes. I mean, Jaipur has turned out fabulously. It's doing very well at the moment. It's one of the top hotels. Bangalore, Bharatiya City has come out fabulously again. Gandhinagar, I think, is a stunning hotel because it's been done by the Indian Railways and the Government of India collaboration. And they have heard every word of what we said. I think John was the initial sketches came from John. And it's an amazing property to see something floating at 75 feet, 80 feet above the ground. It's like a diamond floating on a ring. And I wish you all can go and see it. One thing is the external architecture, which is huge. It is voluminous. It is luxury. But even the interiors have come out fabulously. So
Let's hear John. I mean, you've been in with 3 projects with them at Leela. And how has been your experience while doing the luxury properties with them in this part of the geography?
Wow, it's been wonderful. The experience of working with
Is he easy to deal?
Leela was wonderful.
You have Rajat in between, so go on. Don't worry, we've kept safe distance, so go ahead.
Well, I think that the ability to design an iconic property is something that you don't take for granted. And it's something that, we believe that, authenticity is sacred to connecting our clients to our designs. And that, success is only achieved with a personal, authentic commitment to the place that you're creating. You need to be immersed in the design. And with a client like Leela, they let you do that, and they encourage you to do that. And my experience working with them over the years has been very, very rewarding.
Great brand, right? And very compatible, passionate. Let's get Rajat in very quickly because Rajat brings in a different perspective and your take in the sense in terms of luxury. And I remember everybody wants to say that, listen, I want to do iconic, but aren't we getting to the root of becoming, commoditized, every mile another hotel. What is that iconic thing, Rajat, to you, especially when it comes to hospitality? I mean, are we really looking at those properties that, people for years together remember for great intrinsic values? And of course, technology is the underlying factor of giving, the scalability, agility, and other things in customer experience. But that iconic, I just would like your take on this iconic property, because John mentioned iconic. Shali, would it be okay if I could stand and talk as well? Sure. I can see people behind there. You can't? Okay.
I think first, luxury is very dynamic. Static luxury is gone are the days, because once you acquire a particular level, say for example, if I have a Mercedes, then it could be, Rolls-Royce is the final one. If I have acquired Rolls-Royce, luxuries. So I think, it's pretty dynamic. Luxury to me is basics now. If you really see the top-end hotels of the world, first there will be, majority of them will be non-branded. And they're just basics. So luxury for me is a very dynamic, and it keeps changing, because the moment you reach a particular level, then the dynamism changes. So it has to be very basics. So I think, and I won't mince my words in saying that branded hospitality cannot give the dynamic luxury requirement. It's very difficult, for whatever reasons, X, Y, and Z. So I think the majority of luxury travelers, which is, is getting into a space where the rates are exorbitantly high and all, you'll see majority of them are non-branded, and there's a huge amount of soul to it. And also what we end up doing is, we believe that luxury is a physical aspect. I don't think the luxury is a physical aspect. I think it's a combination of a physical and a soft aspect, and that is where the problem really starts building up. that we focus too much on the physical aspects, not really much on the the soft aspects, and which is the need of actual need. And last 2 years, it has really shown what people are really looking forward to, not big boxes. People now look forward for absolutely different things. So I think luxury, to answer your question, luxury is very dynamic. Physical plays just one part, the soft plays much more part, and then as we are seeing in last couple of years, luxury is now just basics. That is what is the luxury which has been a question.
I'm really tempted to come to you, Cyril, but I know you've been winking and various forms and expression were coming on the face of Vikram. I really am very keen to hear thoughts, because Rajat is obviously, people know in this room, is very straightforward, and that I love about you, and you made very strong statements. I mean, it is physical, but more important, I echo these sentiments, that you have to have the soft. I mean, people don't, remember you for all the opulence and great chandeliers and great buildings and great marbles, that's fine, but what touches you? Do you think you have that?
So,
branded big box limitation.
Use the word soul.
Yeah, yeah.
What is the soul of this hotel?
Right.
So I think the soul of the hotel starts with the architecture, definitely. I mean, when you're looking at something, I will differ from him to say that it should not be a big box or it should not be a voluminous structure. You have to walk into a place and say, wow, where have I come? That is aspirational.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Now we need to do soul searching. Yeah, we come to wow, now where is the soul?
So what happens is, how is this luxury created? How is the soul created? The soul is created in your lighting, your dimming, your moods, your people. I think most important...
Rajat is not agreeing, but we'll go
You
ahead.
don't agree. I think the programming and the servicing of the people make a lot of difference to the soul of the hotel, because that brings out the ethos of what your brand stands for. So that's very important, that you capture that in whatever you may do. He's right. I mean, you may have a big box, you may have lots of chandeliers, you'll have beautiful carpets, you'll have fabrics, you'll have marble, stone, everything. But what talks to you at the end of the day? There's a story, the theme, the artwork, the process, the sculptures, all this talks to you. And when somebody's walking through the hotel, he's following a theme, he's following a story. And that's telling you exactly where this is going, And each of these hotels are different. It's not that each of them follow the same theme. Each palace is created differently. I mean, all over the world this holds good, not only in Leela. I mean, whatever luxury properties are there all over the world. I mean, look at the Middle East and other places. I mean, I'm sure there is more to it than just saying it's dynamic. It is dynamic, but it is bespoke and it is expensive,
Okay, how much I'm tempted to bring back, Rajat? But I think you'll take all the time in this first question, but it's certainly very interesting to hear two gentlemen talk so, passionately about what luxury means, and it's always all right to have, kind of, okay, listen, I don't agree, but let me get Cyril on it, because he's the man who shows how to make bottom lines, when he extended that arm. And Cyril, what's your take? And because you've been involved for long years, almost like 2 decades.
I heard Vikram saying it's expensive, so I thought the question is going to come to me after that. No, I don't want to take side, but I think, look, experience is important for the guests. It's the aesthetic, yes, and I think it's not just luxury. Even a mid-market hotel has to look good. But I think hospitality is a lot about experience, so I think it's a lot of things. Aesthetic is just one of the things that participate to the success of a hotel. That's my take on it. I don't want to take side.
Yeah, very diplomatically, right? And I think you made sense in terms of quality, the wow factor, the soul, and experience. I think these are the necessary ingredients to have that luxury. And I think personally on this first question, as we wrap up, I think it's going to, Rajat, not to be the limitation, but the leaf of learning that one can take, especially for the big boxes and the brands, that if you can, in your great wow factor, the moment you enter, like Vikram said, we must work on the soul. And who better than us in this part of the geography? We really touch the hearts of the people. Indian hospitality is really notches up when it means connecting John to the people. Right, so let me just get to another very quickly. Cyril, as a project management company, you drive budgets, cost concerns, value engineering, quantification, and supervision. How do you propose creating a synergy in project? Because you've got a lot of people working with you, and you make sure that whatever the project is delivered, it meets its objectives, and the final objectives in these trying times is the bottom lines.
Yeah, that's, I mean, we have the worst role in any design meeting, you know, you don't want to be the project manager surrounded by designers. Because we're the ones saying, look, guys, sorry, we can't afford this. We can afford that, we can't afford this. So it's difficult, it's a difficult job, you know, I think every hotel wish they could spend, you know, 10, 15% more than their budget. At any point of time, and there's a design meeting where we say, oh, can we really afford it? And that's really the challenge, is to work with the designers and say, look, can we achieve the same effect, but with a bit less money, you know? But I mean, budget is one. The second thing, you know, which is very dear to me now, is sustainability, making sure we don't bring materials from the other side of the earth, you know, for the hotel. Try to source local materials as much as possible. So there's a lot of other factors, you know, which we try to take into account to achieve, you know, the design intent, but at a low carbon footprint as possible, and, you know, an affordable cost.
Right, so let's get Priya perspective in what he said. You would like to have designers to work on 15-20%. But as a designer, you have a vision to create that experience, to create the wow factor. And how at these crossroads and these junctures and these discussions, how is that the owners are towing the line? Are they listening to you? Are the PMCs working with you in tandem? Are they agreeing to the design philosophy? Because this room has a lot of designers, and I'm sure they have their various Kuzumas here. Many of them who are in the room would echo the same sentiments. It's not so easy. So where are the pain points of the designers in all of this? And how are you able to maneuver them and get their buy-in as well?
Yes, of course, there's a lot of convincing to do, for sure, and we usually play the role of a politician sometimes, trying to keep everyone happy, and, you know, once everyone's happy, the project's successful. But of course, our main focus is, you know, once the financials are in place, once you have your ROIs and everything, you know, we're doing the design, but once these are in place, we can do anything with the design. It's all basically a response to a balance. Actually, it's a balance between, it's continuous balance act between pragmatism, aesthetics, as well as the cost. So what we try to do is definitely, you know, we respond to the brief and everything, but the most important thing is to get a sense of place, and that's what the differentiation factor is for it in the design realm. So that's what stands out for a person of a designer hotel. You can't just copy paste a hotel from one place to another. So what we try to do when we want to create a sense of place to that particular property, it's if a person comes into a hotel and you maybe the second time and you ask them, what do you like about the hotel? You usually get, you know, pointed answers like, oh, the chandelier is nice, the building is nice, the staff is very nice, and things like that. But what the feeling or a sense of place is, it goes beyond just the architecture. It's the wow factor plus what's contextually feeling like right for the place. Your balance with the environment, the kind of programming you put in. It's not just a building. It's about creating spaces that connect people, shared spaces that connect people, that have a different set of program in it, that we as designers have a responsibility to give networking opportunities, community programming, and healing spaces that differentiate from a regular brief that's given to us. So I would say it's about going beyond the architecture and, of course, keeping your base and happy in terms of, you know, the financials and the ROIs.
Very nicely put by Priya, but I don't know. It must be a hell of a time doing that. Vikram, you were smiling on this point on the sense of place. A very important point, of course, John. I'll come to you because you were an architect yourself, and you've done these incredible properties for Leela. So what was the methodology? What was the thought process? And how did you climatize to have the local environment? And we talked about sustainability, Cyril mentioned about sustainability. How did you get everything in place to make sure that wow factor is there and also make sure we are within the budgets? Of course, Leela, you said, are very nice people. You guys have no conflict, no discussion. They toe the line together. But, yeah.
Well, I'll say the budget first. we tried to get Leela not to spend money. We tried to get them to do things. I'm trying to be a joke here, and it's not going over very well. But anyway,
It's closer to your mic.
I try to make sure the client is not wasting their money on certain things. It is the upgrade that Leela wanted in that. Since we're talking about that, in their properties, they wanted that luxury feel. So when I say we're going to do a stucco exterior, they come back and say, no, we're going to do stone. That's what I was talking about, not trying. I was just really, it is about that luxury feel. But how do you get to that? I mean, I am a close study. I have to study what I'm doing, where I'm at. I have to have experience, and that's what I think you need to do what you're chatting about. I mean, what you're asking. I mean, my design education was form follows function. Unfortunately, we tend to do it in reverse. I mean, we have an assumed aesthetic that we force the function into, and that's where inexperience comes in. You can't do it. You have to keep working at it. You have to know what you want, you have to know how it works, and you have to know how the aesthetics are. So it's about studying and analyzing and having the experience. When I started in this profession, it was pretty much assumed that you couldn't be an architect until you were in your 40s.
Sorry, I didn't get the last one.
You weren't going to be an architect until you were in your 40s, a successful architect. Meaning that you could be licensed when you're 26, but you're not going to be an architect until you're in your 40s because you need the experience. You need that study. One of the more famous American architects, Frank Lloyd Wright, designed Falling Water when he was 68 years old. And that was the midpoint of his career. More than half of his designs were done after that. I'm nowhere near 68. So I'm hopeful that maybe, I have a lot more ahead of me. But I just want to make a point that it is experience, it's study. I mean, Wright was always learning something new. And that's what I try to do. I always try to continue to teach myself to learn what is important about the place I'm in, the client I'm designing for, and of course the aesthetic. What is the aesthetic? So, architecture is an art, and like any art, it takes practice, practice, practice.
I think very beautifully summed up, and I think why only architecture? Any segment of discipline or vertical, even in the media, experience. I mean, there's nothing better than experience, but we have to value this young generation. I've come across, we run one of the largest forums for design fraternity. It's called the Eigen Design Forum, where we celebrate 50 designers who are below the age of 40. Some are very path-breaking, architects who've been with us. Our Eigens are the great names in the country, and to my left is the gentleman sitting here, Kozuma, and many more. Rajat, very quickly, and very intrigued to one of the resort, Raka. Is that the right way to pronounce? Rak. Anybody aware of Rak? Oh, there goes Anirudh. A few people nodding, and the gentleman here. I went and I was very enamored. And what made you think to do this project? I mean, there's so many resorts happening, and this is something very good. And I think people in the room would also learn to know more about Rak. And I love the name.
So, I'm very clear on few things. If you're not contributing to society, then we are worthless. I'm very, very clear on this. So I basically belong to a place which is nearby. So when we thought of really building up, whatever we had learned as part of my consulting firm, I made sure none of those I'm going to implement. I was very, very clear. No hotelier will be working there.
So experience he's putting behind it. Very
just
well.
Doesn't make any sense, because there was no soul to it.
Wow.
So, and the second thing is, we need to really involve the community. We all talk about sustainability, but majority of the cases, the sustainability is pretty limited to the physical aspect of the building. For me, that is not a sustainability. That is just a very small component of sustainability. I think sustainability goes hand in hand with the community development. So if I'm not able to reduce a human migration from rural to urban, then that for me is not really 100% sustainable stuff. So, the thought process was, and the second thing is, let's understand what is the common problem in families, which is communication gaps. Every parents whom, today ask, you will be, they'll be only talking about they want their children to be away from gadgets. Everyone, because they're too much glued to it. There's no communication which is happening up. So when we thought of, idea of RAK, the whole objective was that, family should be spending quality time. Now, how do I create that quality time? I will create a mediocre room so that they should be out of the rooms. That's the first thing. So no TVs, no Wi-Fi's, no room service. If you walk, we'll not allow you golf carts. Very, very extremely clear on this. So what happens is, but there are a lot of activities. So once you are out as a family, start spending time together. And when you go back, you really realize what you were missing in urban setups. And then the second thing was, I will only going to hire the local people. Absolutely clear. No hotelier. You'll be surprised, there's no controls in our place. It just doesn't work. I'm against this unnecessary controls, because controls limit the decision making. And if we do not let the down the line people take a decision making, the wow in terms of service will never happen, because we work with the mental blockades. So, these were a couple of things. I let them do whatever they feel like. These are 3-4 things they have to maintain. A lot of culture. And I'm very, very clear that, India has a huge culture. We need to really bring it, whether in terms of architecture, whether in terms of food. We have regional cuisines which is almost dying. So if we are not able to bring them back, we are not doing our justice as. So that was the purpose of RAK. And to very large extent, I think we have been successful in creating that product.
I think we give him a big hand. I mean, what? This is something very out of the box. I haven't heard, and I, for one, would definitely like to visit RAK.
Anytime.
And
whoever has seen, I think Anirudh is here.
Anirudh is here. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I think today what's happening, we're not thinking on these lines, and the designer on my right.
I'll give you a small little example. So we realized that, how do you make children run or rather do physical activities? We just did a very small little, I bought a Hamley gift, which is at $300-400, keep it at a reception table, and we'll tell them, these are 20 activities, every activity has points, if you cross these points, you get this gift. Believe you me, same children get up 6 o'clock in the morning, forcing their parents that we have to go to track because it's going to give you 10 points, the 10 points will get accumulated of that particular gift. And 3 days, they are just doing these activities because of that. And parents are happy that finally they are doing some physical activity. Your point get detected in case you are seen with a phone anywhere in the resort property.
I'm packing two of my kids to you. No, it's so wonderful. But I think, but in the real world, in the real parlance, I'm going to take kind of a sense from each of you on this bit on sustainability, because that's very core to us. As a media professional, as a media entity, we really work diligently across the communities that we work. And to us, sustainability or green is not a fad, it's a reality. We do in our offices, like the hoteliers do this amazing work. We are somewhere there, not in a significant percentage, but as an information dissemination platform, I think it's take pride at ITV Media. We do all these, white papers, and we love to talk to you. But he made a point, in fact, for the people, we were just chatting, and he forgot to mention on RAK. He said, listen, once you book your reservations, you will get calls from our hotel, and he will say, the person, sorry?
The
first call will go, let me, yeah, go ahead. So these are the things not available.
Yeah, so the first call within 24 hours, you get it, that these are the things which we don't do it. In case by mistake you have booked this resort, please cancel and we'll refund it. There's the first call. And before you come in, there are 3 more calls just to create that personal rapport.
So by the time you come, you're already acclimatized, and you don't have to expect much. But, so my friend Vikram, this is path-breaking. But at the end of the day, we are all here to make money, the brands are here to make money, and sustainability is an important, and how
it's not that we are not sustainable as in luxury, like I was saying earlier. Oh, sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, so I said from a sustainability standpoint.
One thing is, we've beaten to death things on LED lights and water conservations and...
CFL came and the LEDs and be seen.
Everybody's gone that route. I think now the whole thing is moving towards reducing carbon emissions and getting a 2025, we've taken a solid stand that we will have net zero kind of buildings, not only in Brookfield properties, but also in Leela we're working very hard on that. So two things, we've got into removing our plastics now. We're also going the glass bottle route in the rooms, so reduce the plastic wastage. We're going to solar plants and windmills for our hotels. So that's again going to bring down our grid power consumptions. CSR activities, I don't know if you know, but we signed up Icons of India, and
Yes.
Satyarthi is
Very recently.
corporate who's one of our Icons of India, and we are sponsoring 10 of his schools also in Brookfield, and Leela are sponsoring. So it's right, we are looking after community as well, we are looking after environment, we are doing everything in our possibility. I think the government of India also has made some rules that you have to have an energy manager on board now, you have to have a patch sequence, you need to fill up documentation, you need to submit that documentation, they give you a target energy figure that you have to reach. So we have complete ESG teams working on this, separate branch in our group. Some of them are in my team as well, who are just concentrating on the sustainability and governance part of it, which is very critical. We've come a long way since what we started, but our aim is to go net zero by 2025, definitely.
Yeah, for sure, I mean, solar plant and other things. But what I like about Rajat, he talked about rural adoption. And I saw Mr. Himmat Anand in the forum, and if you look at his tree of life in Jaipur, and he got the materials locally, and this happened many years back, while we were not even conscious about the fact of sustainability. So I think taking local resources, local materials. Cyril, how are you educating and how are you making sure and you adding a bit on the sustainability while making sure the numbers are right, but this is very intrinsic to the whole property itself?
So I kind of followed Rajat's path a few years after.
Or
so
you also look like
I've started
Ascentis.
building my own hotel as well.
Yeah.
And of course, right now it's a hotel in Sri Lanka. Everybody knows it's difficult to get anything in Sri Lanka at the moment. So, and importing is very difficult because the country is short of dollars. But beyond that, I realized that sustainability was becoming too much about, okay, do you have your solar panels? Yes. You've got your heat pumps? Yes. You've got, you've ticked all the boxes. But a lot is about the carbon footprint of the construction itself, where you get your materials. And right now, we're in a world we don't even think, yeah, you want that granite, that marble. Yeah, we'll get it, wherever it comes from, It goes halfway across the world, but nobody really thought about it. So I think when I'm building mine at the moment, we really try to maximize the local materials, And so, for instance, we've gotten rid of all the granite, because there's no granite in Sri Lanka. Try to go with local materials mainly. So I think it's nobody without a credible sustainability strategy in the next 10 years. I don't think we'll be in business very long because it's becoming so important for the guests, for everybody, for all the communities. It's really something we're paying more and more attention to.
I think people are being more aware now of sustainability.
Next, on your left-hand side.
I think more and more the guest is also more aware on this factor. And many of them want to know what you guys are doing, what is happening. So it's not that something you can run away from. It's there. It's save the planet is obviously on top of everybody's mind. So I think that makes a lot of difference now. So everybody's not forced to do it. It should become a habit. It should just happen, I think.
I think Priya mentioned sense of place. Rajat is taking 2 cents from the lady. Sense of place, sense of sensibilities. And of course, who better than the designers to add value? It's just not about, I'll do for sustainability initiatives, 1, 2, 3, tick, tick, tick. No, but I think you're at the core of the property. So what's your take?
On sustainability.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do agree with most of you here that there's a lot of greenwashing going on now where, people are just ticking the boxes and, getting all your plaques, your LEED, your BREEAM, and things like that. But I think we don't have to boast about our project being sustainable, but it's really getting authentic to even choosing your site right from the design process, even orienting your building. Right from the purpose of your building as well, because hotels and anything in the hospitality sector are really guzzlers of energy. So we really need to design right from the start with the local, not apply American standards on a building in Nepal or a building in India or something. It really has to be a very localized sort of response to the environment, and also very authentic to the purpose. It's extending not just materials and not just your the way of doing things, but it's also really providing opportunities for people like the farmers or some next to you, like really integrating with the local community, the culture, as well as it's not just during occupancy. I would say you even do it post-occupancy. You have to be sustainable post-occupancy, the kind of air you breathe, the indoor air quality. So it's the whole life cycle of the building. It's right from the initial to the construction to, while you're living in it and who you're attracting.
Well said.
So-
Rajat, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'll just give you a small little example. If you just think, slightly out of box, this sustainability can be real term. We're doing a particular project in Gurgaon. So urban setup, so we can't say that rural, what I've been talking about. It's a financial giant complex around, 6 acres or so. So we were hired as an F&B strategist, and, we create a sort of a landscape experiential statement. So even the ownership agreed that whatever we plant there is 100% edible. So anything which is not edible, you'll be surprised, the ficus, not even animals eat. And we are all ficus everywhere, left, right, and center. The palm leaves, not even an animal eat, So they agreed. And a small, around 1 acre, 1.5 acres, we gave it to farmers, that they will grow their vegetables and there will be a farmer hub. I'm talking about in metro. So, rather than just making it very manicured, you can make it very organic. It's just a matter of, thinking slightly. So whatever is being grown, why create, those grass where you can, have lemongrass, which adds a lot of value, especially mosquitoes, this, that, and this adds a lot of value. Just you need to think slightly out of box, and there are easy solutions.
Absolutely, and I think I got a time for 10 minutes more. But I don't know, there's a great brand, Jaguar, there's somebody here. And if you remember good old days when you used to take bath, there were no showers, nothing, and you used to call that bucket bath. And in one bucket, we all had good time. Anirudh, Kozima, yeah? And I was very happy to see if Jaguar is around, I don't know. But they launched something very out of the box, they call it tumble bath. And I went to their factory in Manesar. The whole thing comes as a gush of water like a tumbler. So brilliant, you guys have done. So ladies and gentlemen, the last 10 minutes, and I think they are all phenomenal people with me on the panel, but it's important that we know each of them personally as well. And Vikram, may I come to you? I've known Vikram for many years, and if the guys who don't know him, I know you have sailed in the wild waters for almost 14 years, worked in hospitality, then engineering, project management, design, and we were just very curious to know that your experience, how journey reflects after all this rough weather, water, and my goodness, 14 years. And now...
Yeah, so I've had a very interesting journey in life, I must say. I have somebody upstairs to thank.
You guys know about this thing?
Yeah, I was a marine engineer. I sailed on oil tankers for 14 years. Traveled across the Atlantic. Used all the rough weathers, wore life jackets.
And made a lot of money there as well.
Yeah. I'm in it for the money.
Rough weather gives you another...
But I spent a lot of money also. I had a great time.
No. I've got a lot of marine engineers, my friends. I know their lifestyle. Yeah.
Well, then, hospitality was a great experience. It's been an amazing experience. I started off with the Oberoi hotels. I thought I would probably go back to sea, but that became another 14 years. I was there during the attack in 26/11, so that was quite a challenge for all of us to bring the hotel back together. Of course, everybody went through a lot of grief that time. Then with the Taj, and then with the Marriott, and now with the Leela. So I've traveled across various brands. I've traversed through, I've seen various changes, very different ways of thinking, brand identities. And again, coming back to luxury is a different segment, when you start last 5 years when you've been doing kind of cookie cutter designs and, copy paste and stuff like that, suddenly you get thrown into a different. So of course you go back to the mindset of how Mr. Oberoi thought or how the others thought, So, but yeah, it's a great experience.
And I think rough weathers have taught you
Rough weather.
to weather all the storm that
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, it's just very small. Yeah. Anyway, so lady next to me, Priya, I mean, I was very enchanted to know that she herself, she plays piano. And she had the fortune to work, study London, Middle East, Oman, Singapore. And I think, Priya, you would have in close encounters in different walks of lives, different places that you've been. How has it helped you to become such a fine designer today?
Yeah, definitely have moved around quite a bit. But I feel I've also not just moved around, I've lived in these cities long enough to actually appreciate the culture and integrate with the locals as well as the fabric over there. And really, this field is all about, serving people, designing for people. So all these experiences really made me understand people's requirements, understand people's culture, understand and really get best practices. And I'm very integrate best practices from all these cities in any of the designs that I think of. I think it gives you a very global and globalized mindset that can be applied to identify people's needs. And in terms of, I do play the piano and do a lot of artwork and things because I feel, of course, it is a creative industry, but we don't always get to be creative. There's a lot of number crunching, a lot of practicality, pragmatism, and technical stuff, which is very good to, just cut off and, do your own thing at your own pace.
Definitely. I think creativity, in spite of all the hard numbers and real life, but I think that sense of piano, the playing of piano gets you that comfort. Let me come back quickly to Cyril. You're fond of surfing and sailing, been in tough waves like a man. Have your passions had an impact on the work that you do?
Look, I'm going to be very frank. This is what I do when I get away from work. So I wouldn't say there's too much in common with work, but look, I think what is great in hospitality, and I think I can speak for all my colleagues and a lot of people in this room, is that we enjoy working on the kind of projects, on the hotel projects we have, and it's really important to enjoy what you're doing. I used to work in an industry that was really not sexy at all before. I was building wastewater treatment plants in a previous career. I can tell you it's much nicer to work on nice hotel projects, and that's, do something you enjoy doing. That's really important.
Very quickly, John, we all know your passion for photography and your wife, and you've been always traveling all over the world, so stayed many years in Singapore, and also in the kitchen a lot of time in your early years. How has it helped you as your personal hobbies in your work life?
Well, as you said, I was raised in the F&B side of hospitality. My father was, both my parents were immigrants. My father was a restaurateur, a chef, and he owned a nightclub in New Jersey. So that's a whole nother story. My mom was a baker and a private caterer. I learned a good deal from them about service, quality, and character. I saw how they took pride in what they did, and I believe it's that dedication to service that is what made me gravitate towards hotels, hospitality design. I've been fascinated by hotel design since I was 20 years old, and I studied it in university. I'm an observer by nature. I love photography. I think it's an extension of this trait of my observation. I found that looking through the lens or cropping an image or a photo allows me to, capture an event or a feeling of a space, that's appealing. I find there's something that I like about what I see through that lens. And it could be provocative, it could be whimsical, it could be anything. But the image is what is stored in my memory bank. And being a visual learner, these memories are what I use as my database. So I recall them in how I design. I don't copy them, but I recall them to figure out what it was about those spaces. So, what palette, what proportion, what atmosphere that I bring to the event or the space or the building that I'm designing. I mean, hotels are a stage set for the guests. And the guests are the actors on that stage set.
Thank you, John. Rajat, the last one to you. I know you're a nature lover. I love your talking straight and upfront, and you've been a mountaineer and rafting. How all these qualities where you spend most, how do you get inspiration from them in your work?
See, Bibhor, except for last 2 years when this COVID happened, typically around 40 days in a year, I'm cut off from the world. So no lights, we stay in tents, no Wi-Fi's, no phones, nothing, You're only just moving around one place to another and whatever. So I'm very, strong connect with nature, with especially rural part. I've traveled complete Ladakh on foot, except for one valley. There are places where you need to travel 4 days to reach your house, from the nearest road head, that is the level of stuff. And I've seen that part of the world in terms of how much poverty, but a lot of happiness in them. So especially in my scope, when things happen, I get very agitated when people, keep on pushing us that, reduce this, put machines so that it reduce manpower. I think we have a dual responsibility. Number crunching is not the end of the day. We should not get into a situation where, everything is machines. Then what are human beings going to do? So whenever we design in our part of the areas, we try to create a right balance, again, because it's end of the day, someone else is going to operate it, but a right balance between machines and human beings. And coming back to the, front of house areas, end of the day, hospitality is all about, human touch and feel. There is a limit the technology can, really do it. But we should not try to avoid that human connection, come what may be. So with a strong background of being in, wilderness, this is what my thought process is, that, whatever you end up doing, it should add value to somebody's life. Otherwise, you're not really doing justice to your work.
Fabulous, and I think I can't see Shadi anywhere, but I think, are we open for question to the floor? Would anybody have a question, Anirudh, and anybody calls him, just in case?
One question on Mr. Choubal.
For sure. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's absolutely been an exhilarating session, and I think I devoured every moment of talking to you. I wish we had the luxury of time, had many questions. I really wanted the debate to go between the box and the soul and the vow, but I think we are largely in consensus, and I think people in the room and people outside the room, whenever they see this, I think there is a leaf to turn. We must give a lot of importance to design and aesthetics, and designers for me are very, very important. Please encourage and listen to them. Owners, brands, please listen to them. They are really the people who will add tremendous value, and I mean it, for the two friends, Priya and John there, and I think it's been great talking to you, and I think the thread of discussion continues. There is a lot to debate and a lot to learn, a lot to deliberate, a lot to ideate, a lot to collaborate. So ladies and gentlemen, big thank you from my side to everyone here.
Thank you.